Hello everyone. I am Tavana Denise, physical therapist, life coach, and founder of the Wellness PT Society. And I'm on a mission to save as many PTs as I can from burnout, boredom, and glass ceilings. And I'm so excited to be here today. And I'm so thankful that Rob invited me to come on and talk to you guys about how to start your telehealth wellness practice and protect your license, because it is one of the most requested questions that he gets. It's one of the most requested questions that I get. And many therapists have these questions running around in their head, mainly about, so there are two aspects of this, right? How to protect your license if you decide to go on that path, and how to start the business, because I don't know about you, but they didn't teach me how to start or run a business when I was in PT school. And the few people that I have talked to who did have some education in PT school about how to start a business, they were talking about how to start a traditional brick and mortar. And we are not talking about this. We're all about a lifestyle business. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And it's really important, this conversation that we're having, because especially once the APTA added in the aspect of us being able to practice health, wellness, fitness, health promotion, maintenance, and all of these things in our scope of practice, now people want to know, well, where does PT start and where does wellness end, and vice versa, and what can I do? And if I have a health coaching certification, can I use that? Or if I have a CSCS, or if I'm a PTA and I was already certified as a personal trainer, can I use this and can I do that? So these are the big questions that we are answering today. And I'm going to do my very best to answer as many of the questions as I can. I'm also going to do my best to show you some workarounds that I've found, because I'll just be honest, as I have talked, and I did this talk, Wellness as a PT, is it in or out of scope, in August of last year. Since August. So we're now 8 months later. I still do not have a lot of answers from the APTA, or I'm based out of Atlanta, Georgia, so I don't have any answers there. But what I have done, because I love solving problems, is helped people find some workarounds so that you feel comfortable in going out and practicing how you want to practice with who you want to practice. Because at the end of the day, if we are full and we feel good about what we're doing, then we will help more people. Okay, so I'm going to do my best to not go over an hour. Somebody hold up a hand or whatever if I start to get too wordy, because I could talk about this stuff all day. I absolutely love it. So what I want to do is put some parameters around the discussion, because it's a lot to it. There are a lot of layers, and there are, quite frankly, a lot of unanswered questions still. So we're talking about telehealth plus wellness plus business. Okay. So if we pulled out any one part of that, it'd be a different discussion, but we're talking about those three things. And I 100% advocate physical therapists being in the health and wellness space, because we already have the knowledge. We had to learn all the basics of what is normal and what is optimal functioning in terms of health and wellness in order to be able to rehabilitate it. So that's super important. We already have the information. We already have the base knowledge. And here's what I know. Most of us were student athletes, continue to be athletes, continue to be into health and wellness ourselves. So not only do we have the experience and expertise, and we come at it from a love, just from a personal standpoint, but then we have the degree. And we know what happens if people do not protect and take care of their health. So who better than us, right? The other reason I want to make sure that we have this talk, and I'm so thankful to Rob for asking me to come on and share this information with you all, is because I am, quite frankly, sick of seeing the people get Instagram rich and famous who just have a certification and they didn't take the they're not exercise physiologists. They didn't have that plus the DPT or the MSPT or the BS and PT, right? So these are people that don't have the level of education and experience that we have, and yet they're the ones people are listening to just because they have a six pack, and they're providing misinformation oftentimes. So I think that it's important for us, it's important for us to kind of start thinking outside of the box and stop being so afraid to share the information that we know, and to actually take a page from their book and understand that the person that's Instagram rich and famous because they have a six pack, they have learned to relate to the people on a level. They're not whipping out research papers to motivate people. They are not using $5 and $10 words if that is not how the person they're trying to reach speaks. And they are leading with results. We can use the research to back it up, but they're leading with results. So those are some of the things that I will say that they're doing right. And so they're able to get out there and reach people. And we can do some of the same things. So I'm going to answer as many questions that I can that I've found, and I've collected a bunch of them over the last several months, over the last year actually, and answer the questions that keep PTs from playing in the health and wellness space. And I want to share with you the simple startup framework that I've used to teach therapists how to launch their business, or the basics of business, so they can launch their wellness practice and get out there and help more people, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. If we have the information and we have the desire to do something, but we don't know the steps to actually start a business or market and let people know. Marketing is simply letting people know who we are, what we do, how we can help. If we don't learn those basics, how many people are not being served by us not having that information? So that's what I'm up to today, and I hope you guys keep listening. So if that's okay with you, that's what we're up to today. Taylor says the Insta stars. Absolutely. So during this time that we have together, I want you to take the information that I give and listen with the understanding that I'm coming from the following angles, right? So we're talking about wellness, meaning anything pre-injury, okay? In the State Practice Act of Georgia, they actually have specific language that puts a person after injury back into the category of health promotion, maintenance, and wellness. So I've looked through a few of the State Practice Acts. I cannot and will not look through all of them, but I encourage you to do your due diligence and read yours. So for the purposes of this discussion, when I say wellness, I mean anyone who comes to you and they're wanting to do something that does not involve an injury, okay? The second aspect that I want you to listen from is when we talk about, or when I talk about business, I'm talking about brand spanking new to business, right? And I'm also talking about telehealth, meaning another way to say it is online business in my personal opinion, but I will talk about the nuances of online versus telehealth, okay? But telehealth meaning that you are in one place. I am here right now in Atlanta, Georgia, and your client is in another physical location. So they could be in Atlanta, Georgia, just not in the same room with me, okay? So I consider that to be telehealth, and I'm sure Rob will correct me if I'm wrong. And then the fourth aspect of this is that we're talking about cash-based, right? So wellness, brand new to business, telehealth or online, cash-based. So that's the basis. When I give these answers and the recommendations in here, I'm looking at it from those aspects, okay? And we can talk about some other stuff, but that's really, I wanted to put some parameters and a framework around it, because this could really turn into an 8-hour discussion easily, I'm sure, okay? So here's your disclaimer, as I'm sure Rob and all of us that kind of try to help mentor and share with you, I'm not an attorney. I am not an attorney, okay? I'm a physical therapist by trade, have been so for the last 17 years. Nor am I an accountant. So those are usually the two people that you want to consult when you are considering starting a business. Now, here's what I will say about consulting a health law attorney. They actually oftentimes don't have answers for us either, because all of this stuff is new territory. So I want you to do your due diligence. And one of the first things I ask people who work with me in the Simple Startup program is to print out or pull up your State Practice Act and read it line by line, and then read it again. What you're looking for in there. What is that? The disclaimer, Rob? Like, I am not an attorney or an accountant, right? So what I want you to do is print out your State Practice Act or pull it up, read it again. And I want you to pay special attention to the sections that talk about your scope of practice, that talk about documentation requirements, that talk about direct access, that talk about, I'm missing one. Direct access, telehealth if they have it, and health, wellness, health promotion, prevention. There are like 6 different things that the practice acts and the scope of practices are using in terms of their terminology. So those are the things that I want you to take a look at when you read, okay? All right, what is Rob saying here? Brand new, yeah. Safest answer, go away from innovation. So we're gonna straddle the line, walk the line of innovation, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. Because I think that's fascinating and interesting that other professionals, like lawyers, like medical doctors, like physical therapists, everybody wants things to be the same. Nobody wants things to change. I actually got asked to consult on the staff work group for the APTA in terms of what the best practices for documentation are going to be in terms of health, wealth, health promotion, and all this stuff. So I'm really invested in finding out this information so that we can practice and we can keep our licenses and we can do the most good for the world, right? Because this talk is so important because we've got the Insta-famous people out there and they're running around practicing out without licenses to protect and without restrictions. So they're doing everything. Meanwhile, we're sitting back. So that's why I'm doing this. Let me see what else I wanted to talk to you all about. Okay. And that's pretty much it. I covered all of that stuff. So if you don't feel comfortable with something, okay, Jean, I'm working on it. So if you don't feel comfortable with something, make sure that you reach out to a health law attorney in your state and just understand that they may not know either because it's brand new. I am working with the APTA to get some answers. I'm actually working with their legal counsel. I've been connected with them. So that's where we are with that. Okay. Now, before we dive into the nitty gritty, let me back up for a minute and tell you a little bit about myself. Besides knowing that I'm a physical therapist, life coach, I've been doing this for 17 years. And probably like many of you, I was a student athlete. I love the human body. I love to see it perform at its optimum level. I just loved everything about it, right? And so I had a lot of health challenges as a kid and went to, don't be laughing at me, Meredith, had a lot of challenges as a kid and experienced my time with the doctor being sit in the waiting room for like 45 minutes, see the doctor for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, get a prescription. They don't check and see if you took it, did it work, were there side effects or any of that, and you go on your merry way. Found out about physical therapy, absolutely loved it, and I was like, this is what I'm meant to do. Okay. Fast forward, I had my own health challenges and found myself overweight, way overweight, right? And this is like, well, why am I doing this? I'm a physical therapist. I'm supposed to be the picture of health, and it is what it is. But in that period of time, one of the things that happened as I was running a clinic, not only did I not get the promotion up, even though I was already running a clinic, I got denied PTO to go to my brother's graduation at NYU for his master's. So how many of you have ever been denied PTO? And I'm like, what the heck? And so that was my first soiree into business because when they denied PTO, I promptly put in my notice and started my contracting company, my physical therapy contracting company, which was amazing for a while because then I just turned right back around and did a contract with them, making more money. So that's how I got into business, and that's how I started my first real business in physical therapy, quaking in my boots. I didn't know anything about business, but I knew that you weren't going to tell me what to do. So I think in that regard, I've always been a bit of a rebel, right? So then what happened is I loved being a contractor. And if any of you all work PRN or contract work, you know what? You get to tell them when you're going to work. And it's pretty darn awesome. So after a while, though, if you live in Atlanta, DC, New York, LA, any of these places, you know, like I do, traffic kind of sucks. And so I started looking at not only with the traffic being terrible, I had finally gotten rid of a lot of weight, about 60 pounds. I was in the best shape of my life. And when I was super overweight, all I could do was salsa dancing because my knees hurt, my back hurt, and all of that stuff. And it gave me an idea. What I ended up doing was I created an alternative fitness event company. And what I did here locally in the Atlanta area was I created events, fitness events, where I took women to different boutique studios in the area to teach them new ways to work out. And that was my first venture into, well, I'm a PT. Do I need to tell them I'm a PT? But this is in line with my degree. It's what I love to do. Let me try that. And I loved it. We had over 500 members in the group. And it was all local. So here's one tip for you all who are concerned about starting fitness and don't know how to gather a bunch of people and get people excited. I used meetup.com. I had over 500 members in the group. We did events. It was once a week. And then they started asking for twice a week. And then I got to the same place where I was like, okay, wait a minute, people. I'm still leaving my house all the time doing all of these events. And now my workouts are suffering because I'm doing, aerial yoga, which I was a CrossFitter at the time and a cyclist. I'm like, aerial yoga is not where it's at. I need some heavy stuff, right? So that morphed into me going to get a wellness coach certification. It actually came as a part of a CEU. I was like, okay, what do I do with this? And that's when I took those people in that group. They were all local because it's Meetup. We had to do these things local. And I started a program, a wellness coach program for women. And it was all about helping them stop yo-yo dieting and using exercise as punishment and emotional eating, all of that. So that's another tip. My niche was very, very specific. It was all about ending yo-yo dieting, emotional eating, and beating yourself up with exercise, okay? Now, once I did that, it was pretty cool because other coaches started asking me for help. But what I realized over the years is that more and more physical therapists were not enjoying the traditional practice model. Reimbursement was going down and we were getting burned out. And so that's when I started looking at, can I teach what I've taught other coaches to do to start their business? And here we are. So that's the short version of all of the things that I've done since 2007 till now, and why I'm here before you, because we definitely need to be doing this. So what I've done is rounded up some of the most frequently asked questions when it comes to wellness as a PT, and I want to share the workarounds that I've found and the best practices to date, with the understanding we're looking at telehealth, new business, and all the other things that I said. Okay, so one of the questions is, what legally differentiates wellness treatment from skilled physical therapy treatment? Well, nothing anymore. All of health, wellness, fitness, health promotion, preventative practices, and maintenance are considered part of the scope of practice of physical therapy. So the next question that they asked was, can you get in trouble for not billing or documenting as a PT when you're in health and wellness and or health and wellness coaching? So I talked with one of the compliance officers at the APTA, and the answer is you likely could get in trouble. So what they recommended is to do a short SOAP note. So if you take on a health or wellness coaching client, or you take on a fitness client, you want to still do a basic. It doesn't have to be super extensive, but you want to still have a basic evaluation. You want to know that person's past medical history, at least have it somewhere, right? And then you want to be doing basic SOAP notes. That's what you want to have, just to cover yourself in that way. What about a personal trainer or a PT with a CSCS certification? Same thing. You need to be doing at least a basic SOAP note. If you're acting as a wellness coach or more preventative in nature, is there a need to document and follow direct access laws? The answer is yes. And so that's why I asked you to, okay, good, thanks. I'm glad I could help, Rob. But this is why we talked about reading your state practice act. There may be some specific language in there. Okay, so that is a very good question. So I'm gonna break for a second because Jan is asking, what about a PTA? Now I actually have a call set up tomorrow with a PTA who is doing amazing things in her business on the fitness side of the world. And so I want to kind of pick her brain in terms of a PTA standpoint, like PT, no problem, right? But a PTA, what are we working with here? So I'm going to pick her brain and get back to you in the comments on that one, Jan. But I would venture to say, just from a CYA standpoint, work with a PT in your area, get them to sign off. I don't see, why there would be any problem with that. There are a number of PTs who don't want to do this by themselves. So why not partner with somebody? So that would be my quick and short workaround answer for you, just to cover yourself. Okay. Let's see. Direct access restrictions don't. Yes, Tara, the same thing in Georgia. We do not have the direct access restrictions in Georgia. We have some restrictions for direct access with traditional rehab and PT, but as soon as you're playing on the health, wellness, fitness side of the fence, all bets are off and we have no restrictions, which is another fantastic reason why we should be playing in that space. A lot of us are burning out because we just don't have that autonomy, right? We just don't. And one way to get it is to have your own business. So another reason why we want to be playing in the telehealth wellness space is, look where I'm doing this from, people. I'm in my house. It's the same thing I did when I coached people on, I called it the Rebel Weight Loss Program. So it's the same thing. Like, ditch the commute and help more people. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Is health or wellness coaching considered different from PT? Now, this one is still a little toss-up. I, in my Wellness PT Society group, had Brad Cooper, who's a physical therapist, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he's a physical therapist, and he and his wife, who is an occupational therapist, started the Catalyst Coaching Institute. And I brought him in because I don't know how to certify people in health coaching. I know how to help them start a health coaching business, right? So he came in, and right now how they use it is health coaching is separate from physical therapy. Now, from a CYA standpoint, I would still lump the health coaching into health wellness practice as a PT and follow the rules, follow the guidelines from that. It doesn't preclude you from doing that. Yeah, Malika, that question about groups is still, I gave it to the compliance officer at the APTA because I'm like, how are you going to write a SOAP note on everybody in group? So I'm going to say right now, if you're doing a group that it just does not even make sense, right? Yeah. So that's where I would be. Let me see what the rest of Jen. Okay. Let me read this real quick. Salsa people. Yeah. Okay. So that question comes up quite frequently. You're in the middle of teaching a salsa or a fitness class and somebody has a knee pain, then you have just turned that into physical therapy and you need to refer that person out, or you need to start following the actual how you would practice physical therapy. Rehab is what I'm mentioning in that state. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Andrea, what state are you in, please? And I've also had people say that they try to keep the two separate in terms of health coaching or wellness business here and physical therapy rehab here. Okay, New York. And y'all might have some different things. Like, some of the states have complete unrestricted direct access. I think North Carolina does. I know Maryland does, where I'm from. But Georgia, they changed things up. So again, everybody that's watching this is probably in very different states. So I would just still encourage you to, one, read your State Practice Act, two, talk to an attorney. Somebody's going to have to help me remember where we are now. Okay. Are we being held to our highest level of education or license? 100%. Every person that I've talked to in terms of compliance officers, anybody that I can get to come on the answer, you still need to hold yourself to your PT standards. Okay. Ooh, that's an interesting question. Non-covered entity, cash-based PT to work with the Medicare population. A very interesting article got published recently by a health law attorney who's very, very familiar with physical therapists. I can't think of Aaron's last name, so what I'll do is post it in the comments when we finish. But it was very long and very lawyer-esque. So I was like, oh no, I'm not reading this dissertation right now. But she's talking about that very thing in her blog post. So thank you. Yep. If you saw that, if you're in the Women in PT Summit group, you might have seen that article. So I will also post it here for anybody who wants to read. Okay. Are we restricted in any way in providing? Oh, so awesome. Yeah. Are we restricted in any way in providing in-person and or online coaching or courses in fitness, wellness, health to the general public? Okay. This is my personal opinion, and as I look at the State Practice Acts and as I interpret them. If we are doing in-person group education, there should be no restriction if you are if you are doing this course physically in the state that you have a license in, right? Just makes perfect sense. Now, this is even my question, right? So I've gone to continuing education courses plenty of times before where the instructor came from a state that was not my own. And there seems to be no problem with that. So what would be the difference of you teaching a course to the public in a state to which you are not in? Okay. I think one of the things that I do remember hearing some of them say, if they're not licensed to practice in that state and we're doing a manual course or something, they may ask, may I touch you? That being a little bit of the wording. So again, if you can read your Practice Act and see any specific language, that's what I would do. But to me, if you're teaching a class to the public locally and you have a license in that state, I don't see why there would be a problem. Now, if we talk about online coaching, and for a long time, I had a issue with this because I'm saying to myself, well, okay, we can't do one-on-one coaching. So if I think about as a health or a wellness coach and I'm doing one-on-one coaching, I equate that with telehealth. Whether or not, since it's part of our scope of practice, right? If I'm working with someone one-on-one, even if we're doing it like this via Zoom, Skype, FaceTime, whatever, then I would then think about the telehealth laws in terms of practice, even though it's wellness, right? Here's the thing about online programs. I think, this is my personal opinion, but follow my logic. If you create a digital program, meaning you create a program that you create it one time, it stands by itself, and then people can buy it. So I'll give you an example. Meredith, I saw her on. She did a digital product program course that you can go on to find how to start your non-clinical PT career. If I did something like that about how to stop emotional eating, for example, what would be the difference of me doing that, creating a digital product, and it being online than me writing a book. They're not going to say just because I happen to be licensed in the state of Georgia at the time that I created this thing, then I can only sell it in the Barnes and Nobles here in Georgia. That doesn't make any sense to me. So if you're creating a digital product and you're doing it in that way, then it makes sense to me that you could do a digital product. Now, I had a question the other day in one of my groups where they wanted to know about doing an online course and there only being one person. So if you're doing an online group coaching course or something like that, I would be a little bit careful if you have a coaching component. And here's why. If only one person shows up and or you're engaging with a person and now you start giving one-on-one advice, because if you're anything like me, if you start to ask me a question, I'm going to answer the question and I'm going to ask you questions and I'm going to get more detailed and I'm going to get so detailed and specific, because we're just givers. We want to help. If somebody asks us a question, why would we not help, right? So I want you to be very, very careful if you choose to do a live course and you choose to open it up to people outside of your state. Because I think that's the time where you can you as a natural helper. I know you are, because you wouldn't be in this profession if you weren't. That's where it can get a little hairy and you might end up slipping into telehealth realm and you might be practicing in a state where you shouldn't be, right? So here's my suggestion. Find local clients and clients in your state to keep it simple. If you're going to do live coaching programs, or if you're going to do fitness and health coaching programs, just find people in your state. I just told you I found over 500 of them. Over 500 of them in Atlanta, not even outside of the state, right? So if we talk about that, I'm in Atlanta and that's just one little teeny part of the state. I can advertise to and reach people outside of the state. Actually, I got an invitation to go to, it was either Augusta or Columbus, Georgia. And there's nothing keeping us from going and doing talks and networking and meeting people outside of our city, but within our state, right? So I think people get so fixated on the idea of an online business and this whole digital marketing in the world like that. And you can do all of that, right? But you can do it in your state. If you do a quick Google search, how many people are there's a little billboard down the street from me on Peachtree, which is a famous street in Georgia, in Atlanta, that I don't know what the last time I saw, but it's like 8 million people here in Atlanta. So if you do a quick Google search around how many people are in your state, I think you'll find that there's probably enough people for you to do what you need to do. I don't know how many people you can handle at one time, but I can't handle more than about 20. So if you have more than 2,000 people in your state, I think you're good. So that just means that what you need to do then is figure out how to reach those people. And so 2 parts to that. 1, learn about marketing online, but in your state, and be strategic and be local. And as a matter of fact, I have found, because I've done it both ways with an online business and with offline marketing, right? Online and offline marketing. I get clients faster when I market offline, meaning not just see a moving picture of me like you see now, but you met me, you shook my hand or gave me a hug in person. I get clients faster that way. And so it's a lot. I think people get to know, like, and trust you better that way because they know that you're there and that you can see them. So if we're talking about telehealth and you're thinking that you can only do it on social media or only do some other form of digital marketing like blogging or whatever, there are ways to do it and stay within your state and maintain your license until we get all of this stuff straightened out. The other thing that you can think about or consider is offline marketing, but do the work like this in a telehealth manner. Okay. So those are okay. Other countries. Yeah, Tara, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. I would say if you really want to deal with people in other countries, it goes back to the book analogy. If you can create a standalone digital product, or you can do the live modules, just don't have the interaction and engagement with the people, and it's a standalone recorded thing, then I don't see what the difference would be, just like the example of the book. Okay. So let me see, did I get everybody's questions? Oh, how cool, Rob. Rob, you gotta come visit us again. All right. So now that we've talked about considerations around your license, let's switch gears for a minute and talk about how to actually start a telehealth wellness. Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about how to start a wellness practice, because this is the other thing that I find gets people tripped up. There are so many people in our ears and on our news feeds talking about how to start a business, but are they actually talking about how to start from point zero? Like, I just had the idea yesterday, I want to start a business, and I'm a physical therapist, and I want to do it in telehealth fashion, and I want to do it in wellness, right? So most people are not going to do that. And so what I have done, especially because they don't teach this in PT school, and if they are teaching business in PT school, often it's the traditional practice model, and it's brick and mortar style, and it's with employees. And a lot of the people that I'm running across are saying, hey, listen, I love being a PT, but I'm getting tired of the commute. My back is hurting, and I actually don't want to practice that way. Okay. So I have put this into what I call the simple startup framework, because I am all about making it as simple and speedy as possible to launch your business, so you can actually get out there and start helping people. Do it in the way that you want to, how you want to, when you want to, right? So these kinds of things. And so the first aspect of it, is, and I want you to stick with me for a second, right? Because remember, I'm also a life coach. And I want you to understand that it's important to first redefine or define what success looks like to you. Because a lot of people, if you're looking online, if you've ever even started, like, how do you start a business? How do you start a coaching business? You will hear 6-figure this and 7-figure that and all of these things. And I'm like, okay, what it does is makes people freeze up. Remember the little amygdala? Fight, flight, or freeze. What I find is that a lot of people just freeze and they don't do anything, which is not helping anyone. So I want you to take a moment and think about, what does success look like to you? Does it mean that you have to go full time in your business? Probably not. Does it mean that maybe you take, if you're working 5 days a week? I have one client who she's just trying to replace 2 days worth of income. So that's success for her, because she still likes working in the clinic, but she doesn't want to do it all the time, right? So maybe success looks like that for her right now in the next 6 to 9 months. But then when she reaches that, she's like, I think I could do more, right? So try to break it down so that it's not so scary for you and that you can actually be successful. Okay. So that's the first thing, redefine success. And also think about it, because some of us, because we're in the healthcare and helping profession, we're like, well, I don't care about the money. Well, first of all, we got bills to pay. So the money has to be at least addressed. So that's the first thing. And then if that is not important to you, what does success look like in terms of impact? So if it's not the income, what is the impact that you want to make? Okay. So that's what I want you to think about. And those are the two ways you can create those goals and determine or define what success looks like for you when you decide to start this. Because it's a lot easier to say, okay, my goal is to make $1,000 a month so I can put it away for my child's whatever. Or one of the things that I've had some people start looking at is, okay, I've got $1,200 in student loans. How can I take and make that student loan payment with my business so that I can use the W-2 income and feel a little more free when I'm at work and actually enjoy work, okay? The second step I want you to think about in the framework is to break your barriers. So there are a number of barriers that we have when it comes to starting a business because let's face it, when we go to work, we just go there and do PT. We don't have to learn marketing. We don't have to learn sales. We don't have to do the PT, marketing, sales, and the job, right? The PT, even if it's as a wellness PT. We don't have to do any of that. So there are a number of barriers that we have, like overwhelm, procrastination. What if I don't have a certification? What if I don't know how to sell? I don't like to tell people about what I do. So what are these barriers that come up? Because I promise you, people ask me all the time, can you just tell me the steps to do? And I tell them the steps to do, and they do not do the steps. And when I go back and ask them what was going on with the steps, it's because they freaked out and got overwhelmed because they felt like they had so many things to do. And I'm like, well, why did you do all of that? You don't need to do all of that, okay? So these are the things that we're talking about, right? Understanding your barriers beyond just maybe time or money. And even money comes into play. If you feel some kind of way about money is evil and things like that, what is it going to look like when you tell somebody what the cost is or what the investment is for your services? You're going to clam up. So these are some things that when we talk about breaking barriers are super important when it comes to starting your business. Okay. The next one in the framework is owning your space. Now listen to me. One of the things that I do not think we do well in the physical therapy world is we are generalists most of the time. I've worked in every setting except peds and academia. I know a little bit about a lot of things. But what medical doctors do is you have the oncologist, you have the cardiologist, you have the podiatrist, you have these, right? So if somebody has a problem. There is one doctor at the hospital that I work he's a nephrologist. He is driving a Ferrari. And you want to know why? Because he's the only one of them there. And everybody refers the patients to him when we get some blood sugar issues. So I'm going to tell you this and you're going to reject it. And if you do reject it, I mean, it's up to you, but I'm just telling you time and time again, people find that when you learn to own your space and you become the specialist, right? You become the go-to person, you help people more because you can focus and you can hone your craft and you get to help more people because people know who you are and what you do. So I'll give you an example. I had a client, I was talking to her on the phone today. And she wanted to help. She does peds and she's in the Christian ministry and she's a mom and she didn't know if she wanted to help the moms or if she wanted to help the children with their health stuff, right? So after we finished our strategy session and I'm listening to her stories and I listened to the inflection and the energy in her voice and her talking faster. So this is letting me know that she's getting excited about what she's talking about. What we did was hone it in. So now she works with Christian healthcare providers who are pediatric rehab professionals, right? So the name still needs work, but you get my drift, right? At first, she couldn't find anybody. The people that she was talking to weren't engaging and she couldn't figure it out. But what she did notice, or what we did notice, was when we kind of narrow it down, right? And she's talking to rehab professionals who work in pediatrics, right? Because in our group, we have some rehab professionals that work in pediatrics. And when they go start geeking out over whatever they're talking about in pediatrics, they lost me. I'm like over here because I don't do pediatrics. But if I get there and I'm talking to somebody that works in orthopedics and I start talking about anything in terms of the hospital and cardiopulmonary, then I might lose them. So anyways, the point being to own your space, because when you own your space, as soon as we know who you're trying to serve, then we know what problems they have. We know where to go find them. I know who to refer her to. As soon as we came up with that, I knew 3 influencers in that space that I needed to introduce her to. Okay, so it just makes it a lot easier for everybody. It's easier for you to help people. It's easier for people to help you. Okay, then build your base. You have to figure out how to let people know who you are, how you help, the problems you solve, the results you get, building your base of clients, and doing it in a way that doesn't feel gross, right? Because we're not used to marketing. The patients show up and we treat them. So this is a new skill. Hold on. This is a new skill. Andrea, don't let me forget that question. Okay, I'm going to answer it. This is a new skill. So we want to make it as simple as possible to go find your people. And one of the things that I have found is when you take things that you're passionate about, that you can relate to, it's easy to talk about. So this lady talks about being a mom and being in pediatrics is super easy. I had another client one time, he was a PT, didn't start getting into fitness until he was 40 years old. And his sister asked him to go do a bicycle ride. That was about 40 or I don't know if he did the 40 mile or the 60 mile ride. In any case, he couldn't do it. And so he determined that he was going to be fit at 40. And so now when we worked on his niche, now he goes back and teaches other people who want to get fit at 40 and beyond, right? Because if you get to 40 years old and you've never really been active, you have all kind of thoughts in your head about that. And then if you're a cyclist, right? So now we know where to go find his people. So that's why it's so important to have your niche, make it be something that you're passionate about and something that you could talk all day about. So then it doesn't feel creepy and icky and you don't have the confidence issues and things like that, or don't have as many. Okay. The other piece of that, right? So we're talking about layering it on. We're trying to make it easy for you to get started. So once you own your space, you build your base, then you package your process. So we talked about, let's go back to the young lady who rehab professionals into pediatrics who are moms, right? And they're on the brink of transitioning. So their kids are on their way out of the nest. They have very specific challenges. So I asked her, well, what's the age group of these people? And she said between 45 and 55. So that also means that these people are now approaching menopause and they have different challenges. So they're in menopause. They've probably been working as a PT 20 some years. They probably have some aches and pains. She went through a lot of the same things and thinking, I'm not going to be able to do this anymore. Like all of these things. That's how you figure out, okay, what are the problems and the challenges that these people have and what do they want on the other side? What are the results? Okay. So I call that step packaging your process, right? Because it is easy for us because we have been so trained and so conditioned and so used to trading our precious time, the only resource that we cannot get back, for dollars. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to consider to put your process into a package and sell the package, right? So if a person, let's go to the fit at 40 person, because this person is specifically trying to get ready for a race, one of these. I don't know have any of you all ever done one of those races, the cycling races where you're trying to raise money for diabetes, or here's my Tour de Pink cup that I did for breast cancer awareness. It's a cycling event. And if you've never ridden a bike, you need to get ready for that. And so he helps with that. But because he's been there, he's done that and he knows the end result, right? So it's fit at 40, but they're specifically training for one of these kinds of races. Now you can start thinking about what are the things that I would need to do or teach a person to get ready for this race? What are the things that they need to consider, right? Is it stretching? Is it nutrition? Is it fueling yourself on the bike? What kind of base of cardiovascular do you need? What kind of strengthening and stretching exercises, right? So when you figured out who you want to serve, and the problem and or results that they have, then you can put your process into something and just sell them that. Here's the tip for those of you all who are concerned about security of being employee versus employer, where you get the regular paycheck, right? So you're like, okay, well, if I'm an employer, or if I'm self-employed rather, how do I figure out how much money I'm going to make, right? So that's why it's so important, not only for you to package your process, because then you can sell it and you can sell the result instead of selling therapy sessions or wellness coaching sessions or whatever generic like that, which is like, so what? I want to be thin, or I want to be fast, or I want to be whatever. The other part is predicting your income. So if you are selling this package, let's just say $1,000 for ease of math, and you know that going back to redefining success, you know how much you need to bring in every month, then you know how many of these packages you need to sell every month. And that's how you do this. Business is not willy-nilly. They actually look at the numbers. What are the metrics? What do you, as a matter of fact, if any of you all have worked in orthopedic outpatient, you know they're tracking the numbers, because that was one of the banes of my existence is when I was the assistant clinic director. I knew every insurance, every billable unit, and how much I charged, because we were responsible for bringing in however many working days of the month, $1,000 a day. So if it was 20 days in a month, it was $20,000. If it was 22 days, it was $22,000. So notice that, okay? You've got to pay attention to that, which is a change from being an employee where you get the same thing every month. You can create that. Just know that it comes from a different place, okay? And then the next to last step is to set up shop. Now, I didn't talk about this in the beginning because I think it's very important for you to do some research and for you to understand that and to get some quick wins. Whenever I work with someone on their strategy, especially that part about finding your niche and owning your space, we get so excited because now the opportunities are endless, seeming, almost endless, because we have narrowed ourselves down. So then you want to set up shop, and this is where you want to consult your attorney, consult your accountant. There are a number of softwares and tools that you need to set up as a business owner to make sure that you're ready to receive the clients and the cash when they come, right? And I refer to wellness and I call them clients versus patients. So that's just my own thing. But you want to make sure that you're in a position to receive them, because many of us, when we're starting, we're still working our jobs. So then we have to be able to manage all of that. And so when I work with people, I want to make sure that you have the system set up so that you're not stressed out when the people start to come, because they are going to come when you get specific, you get consistent, and you know where to go find them. All right. And then the final part that we work on in the simple startup is serving your peeps, right? So when we talk about serving them, I touched a little bit on sales. And it's not something that we are used to doing in terms of exchange of money, but we sell all the time. We sell patients on doing their home exercise programs. We sell patients, if you work in the hospital or rehab setting like I have, we sell them on getting out of bed when they don't feel like it. And we sell them on doing more than they thought they could. So thinking of sales as a service, the first part in this serving process. And then the second part of the serving process is, how do you actually deliver that service so that the people get a great user experience, and then they go and tell everybody about you, and then you're not having to go hustle up for patients all of the time. Okay. And let's see. Oh, and then the final part of my framework is building your team, because who wants to do this by themselves? Not really. You say you're no call, no showing. That is so funny. But not doing it by yourself. When we talked about the difference between being an employee to being self-employed, is when you are self-employed, you understand that you put on all of those hats: the admin, the marketing, the sales, the service delivery, i.e. PT, all of these, the customer service, you put on all of those. So when you love doing something, which is the treating the patients or the working with the clients, you want to try to set yourself up in the best possible way to focus mainly on your genius, which is working with the clients. And so once you set up shop and you get that out of the way, then we talk about starting to get some help. And it doesn't have to take a lot of money to get people to help. Okay. So there you have it. Those are my best practices and best answers for you at this time to start a telehealth wellness practice and protect your license. And if you are interested in staying up to date with all things wellness as a PT, Rob has asked me, told me that it's okay to put the link to the Wellness PT Society group in the comments. So we'll do that. I also owe you guys a link to that other article about Medicare. Oh, this is going back to Andrea's question. That article, and I think you were referencing this, Andrea, I'm sorry if I'm saying it the wrong way. I have a cousin, I know multiple people with that name and they all say it differently. So we're going to put in the link to the Wellness PT Society because that's where I'm hanging out all the time. Anytime I get any kind of updates from the APTA compliance or PTAG, or I get a better understanding. I'm also meeting with a health law attorney. It's tomorrow, I believe. So I may get some better information there. It's going to be in the Wellness PT Society group. So that's where you want to be. And is there any, we got like 3 minutes. I did good. I kept it on an hour. So if anybody has any questions, we do have a few minutes if you haven't asked them already. I'm going to kind of scroll through here and see what I can see. Let's do it this way. Okay. Yeah, I don't see anything. We'll give it another minute or so. Let me see, can I... Vine and inventing. That's funny. Thanks, Rob. But just, like I said, I could talk about this stuff probably all day. But I will save you guys because I feel like that was a lot of information for right now. But those are really the main things that I think are holding us up. Just fear of, okay, if I do this, am I going to lose my license? And just not knowing what to do, where to start. Can I come back and present to the group? Yeah, anytime, of course. You're not too late, Ray. Pop it in there. We still got, it's 8:58. I still got 2 minutes. Package the process, always pre-recorded. Well, no, Jean, so that depends. Remember, okay, so if you're going to base your business locally, like you market locally, whether that's online or offline, and you're just going to just be, what do I want to say? If you're going to do everything locally, whether you market online or offline, but everything is targeted locally, and you can do that if you decide to run Facebook ads, you can, or LinkedIn ads, or whatever ads, right? You can target locally. So you can do that. But if you're wanting to expand your reach, like there is one person that reached out to me who is, she's getting a certification as, I think she has a lymphedema certification, some other certification. Anyways, the point of the matter is she specializes in rehab and oncology and breast cancer, right? So we're looking to potentially put together a program for her because what she's noticing is obviously after you've had a mastectomy, you don't have the range of motion. So these women not only feel uncomfortable, they're unsure of themselves, they stop exercising because they don't have the range of motion. And she was telling me how there are some very simple things that people can do. They actually come all the way out to Minnesota from all over the world to work with her there. So how many more people could she help if we created a digital program to just help her get that information that she says is just so simple? Like the things that are simple to us may not be simple to the people that need it, right? So we need to figure out how to do that. Oh, chronic conditions. Let's see. Let me scroll back. Patients with chronic conditions. Okay, William, I would go to your Practice Act and let me see, it says see more. Border between skilled people. Okay, right. So I would go back to your Practice Act because actually in the state of Georgia, they are very specific about what kicks a person out of rehab and puts them onto they call it maintenance side of things. And once they're on the maintenance side of things, they're considered direct access unlimited, just like health and wellness. So my short answer to that is go back. Thanks, Rob. Yes, we'll do. My suggestion is to go into that. Okay. So look at that. Make sure you understand, because some of the states have been very specific. And then I noticed when I was looking around, some of the states just have left it open. And does that mean, since they've just left it open, should you just do whatever? I don't know. In that case, I would consider calling or writing an email to your state board to try to get some clarification. Okay. So awesome. Glad that cleared it up. It's like clear as mud, right? So in any case, that's my time, you all. Thank you so much for being here and being engaged and being interested. And I'm going to pop the link into the group, that article link, in the comments once I pull my phone down. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and or jump into the Wellness PT Society group. I'm in there almost every day. All right. You all take care. Have a good one.